Hi, everyone. My name's Heather Whiteman. I will be serving as your moderator. I'm going to stand up for a minute because I can't see any of you over here. So I am going to be your moderator / panelist, meaning sometimes I'll answer my own questions. But as you maybe know, this is a session on the future of humans and machines, the economy, well-being, and how we think about it in the world. I'll start first by asking my fellow panelists here to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into each one of those topics in that order. Blendi, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Blendi Muriqi. I'm the CEO and founder of Delegate. We provide offshoring solutions for businesses small and large. Our main focus is customer service, accounting, bookkeeping. We also do executive assistant placement. And our workforce is out in the Philippines. So this is a really important discussion for us because it's impacting a whole swath of the population in the East.
Lambert Hogenhout. I oversee data and AI at the United Nations Secretariat. Both the implementation of AI for all of our programs, be it in poverty reduction, peace building, social issues, climate change, anything, the oceans, and also very much on the policy and governance side. And I'm very much interested as well as the social implications of all the technology. How is it going to change our society?
Hello, good morning, Thorsten Jelinek. I'm the director of a think tank, Taihe Institute. My focus is on, or our focus is on from the geopolitics of technology down to data sovereignty or digital sovereignty. I myself involved in a lot of topics around AI governance, intelligent decarbonization, data cooperatives, so making the technology work for society and for good.
Just go ahead, flip the switch up. If not, I'll give you my mic, no worries.
My name is Dennis Jarvis. I'm the CEO and founder of SETI AI, and we are pioneering decentralized AI infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning IT infrastructure, data centers, servers, software for a human-centric and human-empowered future in artificial intelligence. My background is in leading innovative projects in blockchain, technology, and decentralization. And so it's a real privilege for me to be here speaking to you today at the intersection of all of these different areas and the future of human and AI interaction. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'm Heather Whiteman. I like to joke that I am a recovering corporate executive. So I spent a lot of time in digital talent transformation. How do we change organizations into digital organizations? But a few years ago, I decided to switch over to the academic track. So I am now an associate teaching professor at the University of Washington in the Information School, teaching about how do we bring these kinds of tools and technologies forward, and specifically focusing on the future of work. How do we think about how all of these technologies are going to change what it means to do work, how we work, how it connects, and even some of kind of the creepiness of what it means to keep quantifying humans and putting them in boxes and all of that. So this topic in this panel is a great collection of individuals coming at these topics from different areas, and really excited to hear all of the thoughts. We are going to start with the economy and jobs. And so I'd love to hear from your different perspectives. What specific impacts or implications do you think AI and automation is going to be having on the world of work in terms of jobs, but also more broadly in terms of the economy globally, domestically, depending on where you are, and how you think that's going to impact it. So feel free to start, whoever feels compelled.
I think that AI is going to give all of us, everyone in this room, a superpower or superpowers. And I think that this is probably what excites me the most, sitting here at the forefront of this, I think, new human era, this new economic age of artificial intelligence that is going to, I think, in two senses. One, maybe help many of us evolve into being, superhuman at the jobs that we do today. And then in another sense, many of us will experience like an emergence of new jobs that don't exist today. So I think we are faced with the, this future where we all have superpowers that are allowing us to become either incredible managers at our job, directing an army of autonomous AI agents, that allow us to, really shape the world around us, or participate in a new way, in a new information economy powered by AI as data curators, or, augmented creators, or, other, jobs that we can't even possibly imagine yet. And for me personally, I think that the key to making sure that this is a win for everybody and not a game of winners and losers is to make sure that we have, a decentralized AI future that, AI is owned by and controlled by people who have self-sovereignty or ownership of their data, developers who are able to create a world of applications that are, in their mind, what is necessary for this new economy, and it's not centrally controlled by a few cartel companies.
Yeah, if I can pick up on what Dennis said about new jobs, I think we can all see the writing on the wall that some jobs are going to disappear. There's going to be new jobs coming, and the existing jobs, the jobs that remain, will change because of AI. And I speak sometimes to young people. People are just about to enter college, and they think, what should I be studying? What career path should I choose that is not going to be obsolete 5 years from now? And it's a very difficult question because AI is moving so fast, and I don't think we have understood yet how it's going to affect all parts of society. So I feel really bad for these young people right now. It's nerve-wracking to live in these times. It's exciting as well. And the best advice that I can give them is what you're going to need in the next 20 years. The number one skill that you're going to need is the ability to reinvent yourself whenever needed. Every 2-3 years, you're going to have to reinvent yourself. And working at the UN, I travel around a lot, and I see people, for example, fishermen in Africa, who are really good at this. Because sometimes the lake dries up and there's no fish. They say, okay, well, what are we going to do? I'm going to be a woodworker, or I'm going to be a beekeeper. And they do that all the time because they don't have the stability and securities that we may be used to in the United States. So they're actually in a much better position to reinvent themselves. But that's the kind of skill that I think we need.
Yeah, to go off of that, if we look through history, like the last few industrial revolutions, we have seen time and time again massive job displacement. Whether it's the creation of the cotton gin or the industrialization of factories, it's meant massive job displacement across the board. But time and time again, we've retooled ourselves and we've transitioned. In today's age, we're in what's called the creator economy. We've seen people transition to become business owners. And if I had to look down the road, I would say that these tools are going to empower more people across the board to take their lives into their own hands. I think that, in my line of work, majority of our workforce is in the Philippines. It's a customer service hub for corporations across the world. So we can talk about the positives. The negative in the short term is there's going to be millions of jobs lost. If I look at the customer service space, it's divided in different tiers. So you have tier 1 customer service, tier 2, and tier 1 is very much mundane, repetitive questions that are asked. That's gone, and that's millions of people across a lot of developing nations. So if we're talking about implications in the short term, there's a lot of negative, but I'm very much hopeful because these tools are going to put power back into the individual's hands to make a great life for themselves.
Thorsten, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't want to be the Jeffrey Hinton, but I think when we discussed, we will have very negative projection at the beginning, and we end up positive towards the end. So let's start with the negative stuff. I think there are two drivers of modernity. One is technoscience. There's no universal language or more universal than science of hypothesis and verification. Whether you are in the United States, Europe, in China or elsewhere, it's the same language. It's a driver. The second driver is the capitalist expansion. And those together, we have to see technology part of that. So AI, we cannot see in isolation, but we need to see it. It's part of the historical trend. And when we look at the history, the trajectory is quite gloomy, it's quite negative. I think there's nothing to just say, oh, it will be better. I think we cannot just hope, we need to do something. So on that path, which actually Geoffrey Hinton is not following, he's just looking purely at the technology, what it could be possible, right? So, but I look more on it's part of the historical trend. There's a lot of competition, fierce competition. So it will be used for that to gain an advantage, to stay competitive, to be secure. What happens, I think the whole, apropos the UN, the whole development model where cheap labor or farming population was absorbed by the industry had an advantage that if you take China or other countries who had this kind of cheap labor advantage, I think this kind of development model might be obsolete. Or to some extent obsolete because of this massive automation potential. So on that side, I think we're looking at a not really nice outlook. However, for example, I don't want to pick on Geoffrey Hinton, but what he did not allow in his thought is human agency. So it's not that we just follow that trend, and at each juncture, like critical juncture period, and we are at the critical juncture period, I think that's a moment where we can actually alter that path through human agency, through political will. And I think there's some opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. And definitely positive, negative, pushback on each other. I'd love to hear more of that. I know when I'm thinking about the jobs, the future of work, an interesting thing is, yes, we've seen these transformations multiple times. But not in necessarily the knowledge worker in the creative space like we are currently seeing. And so we have this workforce that doesn't have a history of having been displaced, that has been growing and growing over the years. As industrialization came in, we started to prioritize knowledge workers, creative workers. And this is going to completely disrupt a shift in type of workforce that we've been building towards for a very long time. There's some positive in it. We are currently also in a workforce shortage around the world. At least here in the US, we used to grow our workforce by like 30% in the 70s, but it's been dropping. Bureau of Labor Statistics says we're going to be at less than 0.5% of growing workforce. People who stepped out for retirement during the pandemic are not coming back. And so there's going to be displacement, there's going to be change, but in my opinion, this is going to be a really big reshuffle. It's going to be a reset where people coming into the workforce are going to be choosing to go into different kind of careers along the way. And so I think it'll be an interesting implication on how the workforce plays into the economy in terms of these organizations looking to do a lot with AI, but not having the resources to get it done. And so we'll see if they aren't complementary. Really interesting.
Yeah, one final thought after listening to everyone's insightful comments on that question, thank you, is that yes, there's going to be displacement and disruption. And I think to Thorsten's point that like we have to rethink the development models that we're using right now to empower people in the coming AI economy. And I think that we need to really focus on as you mentioned, agency. And agency, I think, comes about as a result of autonomy. Or self-sovereignty, or the ability to direct one's own future. And for me personally, what I think is really important in this space is that we don't allow that future to be controlled by, big tech, for example, or, pick your authoritarian government as another example, but that we have, created a system, a new development model, a decentralized development model, that empowers people and gives them that autonomy that then leads to agency, that then leads them to be able to choose their own path and participate fully in the AI economy.
And I love that we're starting to talk about the people, because I want to go there next and talk about your thoughts on the implications of AI automation on human well-being. generally, but even possibly specifically at the individual level, how do we think the well-being of humans will be impacted by this shift? Thorsten, I can tell you can't wait to answer.
That's a good sign. I just want to point to a study, which is actually a non-tech study, and I think it started in the UK and now spreading. The question was very simple. Actually, it was my former supervisor when I studied at Cambridge. The simple question is, what is the amount of work per week in hours, which makes us most well in terms of occupational health, like very healthy or happy? And that was a question. So what do you think? Maybe shout some numbers. I just want to test. Can I do that? So how many hours should we work? What's the best? 0, 0. Okay, 25, 25, 25. 35. Okay. So, okay.
80.
Okay, you won't know. So actually, generally, the more we work, the happier we are. If we work 40, 50, 60 hours, of course, I mean, in terms of well-being, it's not good that you're not well anymore. So there is a ceiling. So to make a long answer short, whether you work 5 days a week or 1 day a week, it doesn't matter for your occupational health. But you need to get paid. So it was a longitudinal study. It started before COVID, went into COVID. Those who got unemployed at the beginning of COVID was really bad for their health, etc. What is also not good for health is quite interesting if you voluntary work. So you work, but you don't get money. It's actually long-term not good for your health because society values if you earn some money. It's not just that you earn money yourself, but it values that. What does it mean? So before you have a massive displacement because of automation, keep the labor force, reduce it, maybe same pay, a little bit less pay. It keeps them healthy for the economy. It's very important. Retrain them. So I think that would be the first answer. The second one, I think, yes, there's displacement. Also, there was a great study done in Germany of a skill gap. And I think we have a lot of rich countries which are aging and where you have skill gaps in the public sector and in certain industries. And I think AI could also help there to automate. So you reduce the skill gap. There are no people in there, right? There's just a skill gap there. You don't have enough people. Maybe that's a positive story. But of course, what I found kind of staggering that on the, we always said it's a repetitive labor, blue collar work will be replaced first, then LLM came, they said, oh, no, it's the white, it's a creative job. And I think we're kind of back again into the blue collar that they're actually hit first. So
I see that with my generation. So like I have friends of mine that maybe they worked like the first 2 years after college in a white collar job. And they're realizing like the return on investment is just not there like it used to be. And now I'm seeing this massive shift towards people that are willing to go into blue collar jobs. And I think that's like, if you're able to get into a blue collar job, start your own business, you're giving agency, back to yourself. So I see that as being a trend in the AI age over the next 10, 15 years.
Now, how about Lambert? Do you have any input outside of kind of the workplace about how we think AI and automation might affect well-being?
Yeah, I think more at the personal level. I really wonder what kind of a path we are on, because it's inevitable that we will start using AI more and more. We're already using it. If you watch Netflix or you use Spotify or whatever, you get recommendations from AI. If you have a news feed on any of your social media platforms, that's generated by AI. So it's influencing how we experience the world already. And now there's so many other ways in which you can, if you want, but I think it's going to be inevitable, use AI in your daily life. I have a dilemma that when I send emails or texts to people, I tend to be very matter of fact. I really wish I was funnier. People will like me more.
They're laughing.
And now I can. With ChatGPT, I can just run all my text to my friends through ChatGPT first and say, make it funny, make it punchy, but is it still authentically me then?
You're the one prompting it.
It's your intention.
But it's going to change who I am or who I appear to be.
maybe you become funny.
And I'll become a funny person, but is it real, right? And I think I can see a point in time in 5 years from now where we're going to get really confused about who we are and which part of us is artificially generated by AI. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that.
I can speak to that. Before I started using ChatGPT, I felt like my skill set, like my knowledge gap was like very large. And now, I'm the #1 consultant. I'm a McKinsey consultant. I can, any knowledge gap that I had before, I'm not limited to it because I have this tool in my toolbox. So, it changes who you are. In that sense, I do agree.
Yeah, I think, Lambert, you make a very excellent point that relates to well-being, and that is, in this new age of AI, who am I, right? Am I, the output of a large language model that is, funnier than I would be without it? Or am I something unique? And I think that the very important thing to remember in the case of, especially in terms of well-being, is that, we are our will and our intention. And that is something that artificial intelligence does not yet possess and may never possess: the human will, the human intention behind the things that we ask AI to do for us. And I think realizing that is a very core, central part, of individual well-being. So I think that's an excellent point. And I also wanted to see a show of hands. How many people here are wearing an Apple Watch or a Fitbit? Yes. You're wearing an expensive AI-powered gadget, that is focused on your physical well-being. Now, how many people here have a cell phone, an iPhone or an Android phone? Like, is there anybody who doesn't? You also have an expensive gadget that is AI-powered and focused on your physical, well-being. So this is already here today. And I think that is very important for us to recognize that, the people who are behind these products, these ideas, these visions are thinking about well-being. And I think we want the most diverse possible amount of creators and developers and visionaries in this space to help propel this forward and really create a world of tremendous well-being for all of us.
On another note, talking big picture, global stability, there are companies now out there that are investing heavily in, LLM models that can, fasten the production of pharmaceuticals. If we're looking at, the medical industry advancements in medical devices, and when we're talking, like, for example, in a lot of third world countries, developing nations, there's huge food shortages. If we're able to use AI to increase crop yields, you're talking about whole populations that have now access to a food supply that they otherwise didn't have. So there's also like the broader implications on well-being in developing countries that they don't have access to these things currently.
I think it's great. And I kind of want to go back. I love the conversation about who are we really? When we use these tools to become funnier, to think about where we fit, I think that's a really interesting question, especially as I've looked into the well-being area. I was just introduced to a fantastic story about an organization that's working to use augmented reality and cognition work in order to help people who have no mobility interact and have conversations and be part of the workforce, even if they are unable to move, even speak, and be able to be part of that. And so I think there's this question in that instance. I would say that person is capable of being themselves more than they've ever been capable prior to this kind of technology being introduced. And so I think we have these unique opportunities to question if that's really who we are, but also to give people a voice and give them an opportunity for those who never had access to that kind of connection And I'm really excited for that side of the well-being.
Can I, the question who we are, it's not a philosophical panel, but I think we're the animal we don't want to be. I think that's a philosophical answer. And I think there must be, or there will be, or a shift, the Descartes, I think therefore I am a very self-centered vision of personal health and well-being. I think maybe this is maybe part of the problem we are facing now, because this has moved us into where we are today. And I don't know whether this is the way forward, but it might be the way forward if we think of a past dependency. I think another way to think of humanity, of being human, is that I'm just human because we share something. And if we share something as a human, we owe each other. And I think that's maybe a nicer proposition. When we owe each other, we need morality which balance that mutual dependency, because we have maybe self-interest issues, etc. And the big problem is, if morality is needed to manage that relationship, we face a deep crisis of morality. And I think this needs to be addressed as well, in terms of labor, what it means, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think these big questions, and not the big questions of what is morality, we are not getting into that. That was not in the description. But these big questions about, what does it mean? How do we set it up? I think really ties into something else I want to get your opinions on, which is, how are we structured? How is the industry, the broader AI automation technology industry, how are we set up today? Do you think we're set up today in a way that will foster success and some of these mostly positive outcomes that we've been talking about here? Do you think we're not set up for that? How would you characterize our current approach to the AI and automation industry as it stands today in relation to our dialogue about the economy, well-being, and the future? So would love your takes.
Yeah, are we set up for success or failure? We're, I think, standing at the crossroads right now. There is a fork in the road, and I think very easily, we could find ourselves not set up to be very successful in this endeavor that we're all engaged in. And I think we think of like lessons learned, from the past, right? What were the warning signs in different areas? Does innovation in financial markets, create a more robust economy, a rising tide that lifts all boats and benefits everybody? Yes, until it doesn't. Global financial crisis, 2008. Does creating a world of interconnectedness, where you can reach out and share your personal experiences with others and participate in their personal experiences and communicate through social media, to your friends and family, wherever they may be in this world? Does that create a rising tide that lifts all boats and benefit everybody? Yes, until it doesn't. Your data is stolen and used to manipulate political elections, Cambridge Analytica, right? So I think that we are faced with this same moment in artificial intelligence, at the cusp of what we are creating right now, where we need to ensure that we don't have these negative outcomes that we see, from single centralized control by banks on Wall Street, a single centralized control by Meta or Facebook or big tech in Silicon Valley, that we are actually creating a diverse economy with many participants who have an equal voice in how they participate, what they say in terms of creating new products and development in this space, or how they participate as a consumer or a user of artificial intelligence products. And I think that for me, this is the most important thing to solve, the most important problem to solve right now, very quickly, to make sure that we are, in fact, set up for success, not failure in this space, because the transformation has already begun and it is happening at a pace, that none of us are really prepared for, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if we're talking about setting ourselves up for success, it sort of means that we have the agency to say, this is the direction we're going to go with AI. And I wonder if we have that, because sometimes I think we're just at the mercy of where technology is taking us. And there's all kinds of incentive structures and other motivations. People develop new algorithms and new models because they can. It's the intellectual challenge. Or if somebody can invent something new and make $1 billion with it, they're probably going to do it, right? So those are the incentives. But I think all these market forces are just taking us somewhere where we don't really have that much choice in where we're going. Now, having said that, I'm very encouraged by, and that relates to what Dennis described about the diversity in the diverse landscape, that there's a lot of sharing in the AI world as well. There's a lot of open source models. A lot of the research is being shared weeks after it comes out. And that allows people with different interests to also use it in different ways. So that encourages me a little bit.
I think it's interesting to see when the big deregulation happened in the 80s and 90s of maybe 80 or 100 years of a monopoly structure in the rich world. And then there was this trust in internet, was very open, etc. And I think that what we see today is actually a return of sovereignty, a great re-regulation, and the government takes a lot of initiative kind of to have this kind of digital sovereignty. So in principle, it's positive. The problem is, of course, there's a lot of protectionism involved, etc. But the government cannot sort that out in the long run through regulation. I think it's a societal issue where society has to pick up, to adapt. But how does society or business do it? So it's not so easy. And one way what we tried now I'm from Berlin, Germany. What we tried. So there's an industry. It's a construction industry. 99% is SME. I think in Europe it applies more small than medium or big size. And they don't have the capacity, each company, to actually pick up with that speed. And so we came back and actually we suggested to set up a cooperative, or basically a non-for-profit organization legal structure. The company become a member, has a one vote, and then starting actually to say, okay, we want to go this direction and we're going to that direction. So it's a kind of a rebalancing of power of some big tech, which otherwise, just take the data, or not take the data, but they have the data and then they offer the solutions, etc. And it goes a little bit into your direction where you have technology which can enable that, like blockchain, etc. Or you need some new innovative organizational structures in order to have this self-empowerment.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So personally, I am a very optimistic person. I even have resting friendly face. I am just always happy.
I wish I did.
This is the one time that I am pessimistic. If I had to define our structure and our setup in this space, I think we're designed for apathy. And I think we're only designed for reaction. I don't see a lot of conversations, at least on the economy, well-being, human interaction, coexistence front, that makes me feel very proactive. That doesn't mean there aren't some great cases out there, and some of you might have them, but as a general infrastructure, the way the incentives are set up are not aligned there. So I am really concerned personally about how we're structured, and it does take initiatives to kind of get past that. And I think that's kind of a nice segue into something that I'd love to hear from everyone, which is, do you have any specific proactive solutions or recommendations that you think we should be taking to get to this, forgive me for overspeaking, harmonious coexistence of humans and machines? What would be something that you think is a proactive strategy towards that end?
I can speak from a business perspective. So like at Delegate, what we're doing is we have a comprehensive training program for all of our agents, our workforce, to empower them to utilize AI in their daily tasks, responsibilities. And that, that's obviously, it has benefits to our business in the short to medium term, but in the long term, we want them to have personal agency. So I give the example, I had an operations manager. For years, she was developing these beautiful like ceramic bowls just for herself, friends and whatnot. But she doesn't have like an entrepreneurial bone in her body. Like as far as her skill set, she doesn't have these skills. She has that entrepreneurial bone. And since you starting to utilize AI, she now has that skill set where she can tomorrow, if she leaves our company, she will be very successful in that creative endeavor that she's pursuing. So it's from a business perspective, it's a matter of retooling your workforce so they're set up for success, not at some other company, but for themselves.
Others?
I think with the pace that AI has been developing, it encourages us to look very short term, because it's hard to make long-term investments if you don't know what AI is going to look like 9 months from now. So everybody is looking at these short-term implementations of AI and the next step, etc. I think very few people are looking at the medium to long term. And I think that would be helpful if we really want to make sure that AI is going to benefit us as a society, to start thinking about the 5 to 10 year term. How is AI going to change the way we communicate? How is it going to change the way we see our identities, our autonomy? How is it going to affect things like trust and maybe even the concept of truth in society? And those are very difficult questions, but I think those are the key questions that we need to think about if we want to steer AI in a good direction.
I wish I was very practical. I think some of the enemies of our today's democracy or society is pessimism, relativism, and skepticism before anything else. So we should really look into that. The other one is capitalism was an anti-movement, not towards communism, but to feudalism, what was before in Germany, and also to nationalism in that one, and later became the opposite of communism. And what it means actually, maybe we have an unfinished capitalism, maybe we should finish it. And when you look at the etymological origin of the word profit, it means to solve problems. It doesn't mean, in first instance, of the primary reason of existence to make money, but first you solve problems and then you make money out of it. I think we need to re-incentivize ourselves, and it cannot be done just by government to solve problems with AI. And so, of course, you use AI for social media, and that I think went into the wrong direction. And it will go into the wrong direction, it will further regulate it, but I think we need to solve problems with that technology. And in the longer one, I think AI must become kind of a moral partner, a catalyst to improve ourselves. It's not just a peaceful coexistence with AI, forget about that. I think we need to steer it into the direction that it helps to make us better. Just one example, when Aristotle wrote this great philosophy he wrote, he didn't put it into stone himself. No, he used slaves. And at that time, it was morally bad. And actually, the slave who did it, probably he or she knew it's not nice for me to do it, yeah. But maybe Aristotle said, yeah, but that's how it is. And I think there's a term for forbearance, so we don't need to cancel them away. But I think what the message is, we know what's right or wrong today. Society doesn't act like that, but we need to improve, and AI need to be a tool for that. That's what I would say.
Thorsten, I 100% completely agree with that. Yeah, when I think of like, let's say this outcome that we're looking for, the harmonious coexistence of human and machine, we have to recognize that, this outcome exists on a spectrum. It's at one end of a spectrum, this perfect world that, we are all striving for. And at the other end of this spectrum, there is this meme, the paperclip optimizer, right? You're a factory owner that makes paper clips. You ask your AI to optimize the factory for making paper clips. It consumes all resources, subverts your intent, and destroys humanity in the process of creating nothing but paper clips and papering the whole world in paper clips. So we definitely don't want this outcome, right? We want to be pushing towards the harmonious coexistence of human and machine. And how do we do that? I think the only way to do that is creating new incentive structures, where there is an economic benefit to be able to do this. For every AI agent that I'm going to have out there in the world, acting on my will or intention, I also want to have an AI advocate out there making sure that this agent isn't doing the thing that I don't want it to do, or it's not pursuing some bad outcome. So for every agent and advocate, and then how do you ensure that like every person has this ability to have an agent for them and an advocate for them, and that they are able to, check one another, have some balance, checks and balances of power, so that your advocate can prevent the paperclip optimization problem. And I think that the way to do that is by creating new incentive models, economic incentive models that empower individuals to be able to do this.
So I know I have some thoughts on specific, but how many of you are an educator in any way? Okay, so one specific proactive action is just helping others become educated about this. We already heard how fast it's moving. The more that people can understand and feel connected to it, the more we can have this humans and machines coexistence, the more people can be aware of where they're at. How many of you are building, supporting, driving some kind of AI automation forward? You're building it, you're selling it, you're doing whatever. Okay. How many of you go through all of the good math, checking your errors, checking everything else to make sure like that it's good, that it's working well? Wow, that's not as many hands as I would have expected. But okay, of all of you that are actually checking to make sure that your tech is like correct and working right, how many check to make sure that it's a viable business opportunity, that you can actually like make some money off of it, right? So we've got these whole notions already of things like, statistical significance, practical significance. How many of you, before launching a product or during the design and development, have a conversation about the social impact of your product? A few hands, not as many as how many of you said you're working on these things. So my one kind of practical solution, proactive thing is to make social impact one of the core fundamental processes by which you design. When you are designing for your markets, where you're going is asking yourselves, how is this going to impact the world? How does this impact well-being? Most things aren't neutral. So having that assessment and treating it just like you would a commercial assessment and putting it right there in it is a solution that I would recommend for those who are willing to have that discussion and be more proactive. So with that, we are right at the end. We have about just one moment left. Does anyone have any closing comments that you'd like to share?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, for doing what you're doing, for participating in this AI economy, for teaching the next generation of youth, about what lies ahead, for building the products that are going to drive this world forward, for taking the time to sit here and listen to, me ramble on about, freedom and decentralization and AI. You are creating the world that we're about to embark on. Thank you very much to all of you.